You're a bizarre man, I'm going to tell you right now. And here's why. Here's why. It's actually a compliment. And it's because every time something that lacks substance comes up in the media, say a well-placed expletive in an email, or say it's a strange tweet or email from a staffer from Senator Cantwell's office comes up. Baumgartner, there are a lot of campaigns that would focus on that and try and get a conversation going about this kind of distraction. Over and over again, what I notice about State Senator Baumgartner is that he will say, no, that's a distraction, here are the real issues, why won't she talk about the real issues, and why won't you talk about these real issues? And I've got to say, that makes me respect the man tremendously. Please welcome State Senator, next U.S. Senator, Michael Baumgartner.
What did Buckley say, that he'd rather be governed by the first 200 names in the Boston phone book than the faculty at Harvard, I think was correctly so. We don't talk about a great deal the fact that I taught economics at Harvard, although, of course, we didn't do it as much in the primary because we're good Republicans and we don't care. But it's funny, once you're in the general and you're trying to appeal to folks in downtown Seattle, and they rate that stuff a little higher. It was kind of fun when I was at Harvard. Of course, I'm a Coug at heart. You know, I grew up in Pullman. My dad was 40 years of faculty in WSU, and when I was at what I call the WSU of the East, our Republican club was so small, we used to call it the phone booth club, and because we could all fit in a phone booth. But it was, I did think it was a great environment to learn, especially as a conservative, because there were so many liberals there. You had your ideas challenged every day. And I think that's how a lot of us feel here in this part of Washington, that we get to sharpen that saw almost every day. And we know that it's our ideas of fiscal responsibility, individual responsibility, individual accountability, in that government doesn't create wealth. It may set the conditions with roads and education, but it is really small business and entrepreneurs taking risk and building a better mousetrap, you know, and being rewarded for that risk. That's what creates wealth and prosperity in our great country.
That's right.
And you know that, and I know that, and one of the fun things about being a Republican in the state of Washington is that you're the tip of the spear of these great ideas. You know, we really are the tip of the spear. If it was any easier, somebody else would be doing it, and if it was any more difficult, it'd be completely impossible, and, you know, very few would be. So it is a great time to be running. It's great to have support of folks like you. The biggest news in the Baumgartner household I want to share isn't the fact that we're going to have a head-to-head with Senator Cantwell here on the 12th of October and finally get the opportunity to compare this campaign on ideas and solutions. And Cantwell's going to be able to stop for a brief moment at least, hiding behind all her crony money and all these things she has going for her. That's going to be on the 12th of October, and I hope you pay attention and tell your friends. But the biggest news for us is that my wife Eleanor had our second child a couple of weeks ago. We now have Conrad, who is about 15 and a half months old, and Roman is 2 weeks old now. And it was real funny to see little Conrad go from being such a little tiny guy to now he's a big, giant, big brother. And Eleanor just sent me a picture today. He likes pushing the button on, Roman has a little swing thing that he sleeps in, has some music, and Conrad went over and brought him a blanket today to make sure he was warm. So it's fun to have a big brother. But you know, when we got into campaign originally, it was as much about Conrad as it was anybody else. You know, it's really about Conrad and Roman, I think about, and not just my children, and what I hope one day is my grandchildren, but your children, grandchildren as well, is what kind of America are they going to inherit? And today I was just down the road at Immaculate Conception Elementary School. It was interesting, I was there with future Congressman Dan Matthews, and we were answering questions from these kids. And they were asking questions of us, and it was fantastic. You get the innocence of children and just the directness of the questions they asked. And they are asking questions about the debt, and what's going on. What does it mean to have $16 trillion in debt? And of course, back when I was teaching economics at Harvard, I would have told you that a debt to GDP ratio well over 100% of your total economy was a road to disaster, and it was a national security issue. But for these kids, I had said, this debt issue isn't just political talk. It's really about your future. Because what you don't understand is that the recklessness of politicians in Washington, D.C., like Senator Maria Cantwell,
You know, when they go nearly 4 years in the Senate without even passing a budget, when they keep spending and don't commit to real reform, they are borrowing money that you 7th graders actually have to pay back someday. And your future, you know, you see the looks on their faces and kind of connected this, is that, you know, we're borrowing 40 cents on the dollar or even more now. And what that means is that someday you're either going to get higher taxes, and I don't want that to happen because that's going to affect what kind of life you can live, or the government's going to have to inflate all that debt away, and you're going to have this economy that's going to be in ruins. So what we're really talking about is your future. And connecting those two dots, I think, about what does it really mean to be $16 trillion in debt in this broken Washington, D.C., and this future of Conrad, Roman, and these 7th graders I talked about, to me that's just really what the election is about. And I know we have better ideas and solutions to deal with that. I know firsthand if we're going to protect important programs like Social Security and Medicare for those kids and my kids, we have to have reforms and do spending reform. And Campbell doesn't offer any of that. So that was the biggest issue why we're running this campaign. And the second biggest reason we're running is to build what I believe we need to have in America in terms of a smarter foreign policy. And you see in the last couple of weeks just the real disaster the Obama administration has had in its foreign policy in the Middle East. It's very naive. They came into office with this idea that because they weren't George Bush, that personal charisma would lead to a safer world for America. And that part of the world is not about being liked, it's about being respected. And right now we're neither, because we have an inconsistent foreign policy that overpromises and underdelivers, trying to build a democracy in a place like Afghanistan when that's not even remotely possible. We're not trusted as an ally. You think about our allies in the region, they don't know what we're going to do, and we're not feared as a potential adversary. And it needs to be rebuilt. It needs to start with bringing our troops out of Afghanistan. You know, 9/11 certainly necessitated a response, but the idea we would launch the longest war in our nation's history and try to build a democracy, I think it was not a realistic strategy, and it's a result of bipartisan political failure, and it needs to be fixed. And I think I can help fix it. Campbell doesn't understand any of those issues. She really doesn't. Frankly, I'm not even sure that she really cares. You know, we see these, what I'm going to call very hypocritical and cynical campaign ads with all the money she has, talking about how much she cares for veterans. Well, if she really cared for veterans, this is what she would do. She would start only voting for wars that she thinks are well planned. She would stop sending troops overseas with the stuff she doesn't understand, with folks on their 3rd and 4th deployments, with PTSD rates being real, divorce rates being real, suicide rates being real. She would commit to a balanced budget that we can afford, so we can afford those veterans programs. And she would work on our economy.
Yes.
You know, so our veterans, when they come home, can get real jobs and economic growth instead of growing all this government regulation. So October 12th is the date for the debate. Please help raise the profile. You know, just because she's the favorite to win doesn't mean she's entitled to the job.
Yes.
You know, and I've never turned down a debate, and I don't think if you're in office you should if you have the opportunity to do one. And you know, it's funny, we were trying to get some notoriety in this campaign, and so after Mr. Eastwood did his empty chair debate, you know, we put out a joke, and we said it was a joke in there because I said as soon as we do this empty chair press release, I guarantee you the media, you know, you as a candidate, you could announce a cure for cancer and the media wouldn't cover it. You know, if it's got any sort of scandal or something, then they'll cover it. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this empty chair press release, and the media is going to climb the twin icy peaks of Mount Pius and Mount Sanctimonious and say, oh, Baumgartner's doing an empty chair debate. But we did. We put the chair right there, and I talk about these things that Campbell can't do, but together you and I will. And it starts with fiscal responsibility, it starts with small business-led jobs growth, and it starts with the smarter foreign policy. And we're going to talk about those things on October 12th. I would love to come to Everett, Snohomish, and have that conversation. Of course, Campbell doesn't want to do that. But please help raise the awareness. And as we remember from the empty chair and from Mr. Eastwood, at the end of the day, politicians work for you. They work for the people. You are the bosses. You are the bosses. Not the other way around. If you have folks working for you in these job applications who are not getting the job done, let them go. Thank you very much. God bless. I'm Michael Baumgartner. VoteBaumgartner.com.